Hello all, my name is John,
And I'm Tyler.
and together we are DeLong Rigging Solutions, or DRS for short.
So now that we have the floor marked, it's time to actually build the steel. This one's going to be a 1 ton with a 5 basket and a 20 down tail. Luckily in this system, or in this rig, or rigging kit rather, we know that blues are 20s, reds are 5s, which these have got a lot of years on them, so the paint has started to wear off, but you can still see the red paint on this to indicate that it's a 5. So the way you build this is you're going to have a shackle that you build it all off with. The first thing you want to put on it is going to be your piece of 5 steel. Then you're going to take it and you're going to put another shackle on there. That shackle wants to be on the side of the open shackle that's got the threads on it. Next up, you're going to take your 5 down tail and you're actually going to put it on the pin of that shackle when you close the shackle. Which sometimes it takes a little bit of doing to get these to start threading. Alright, so that is what you build. Just so you understand what happens when you send this up in the air, is you're going to put your rope here, they're going to pull it up. Once they get it up, they're going to hold the rope while taking the 5, tossing it around a beam, and then attaching the shackle right there. Which is why it's really important to always have your rope right here between your piece of steel and the pin of the apex shackle. So, now that I've got this, I'm going to go ahead and tie it on. Almost always you're going to use a bowline to send this up. Every house, and actually every uprigger, has a different preference on size of bowline. In this particular house, I know that they really like doing 2-foot bowlines, which just renders a 2-foot bowline is going to be from pretty much the shackle to the knot. They want to be about 2 feet. So you get that tied, and remember you want to have about a 6-inch tail on it. That's about a 2-foot bowline. So next, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to look at this, make sure it all looks like it's going to go up nice and pretty. I'm going to take some burlap and put it in there. So once I've got all that done, the next step is going to be clipping a motor to your bottom of your down tail. When you clip it on, you want to make sure it goes on nice and clean. It hangs just like that. Sometimes you'll mouse the hook with a piece of gaff tape or something like that to keep it from snagging. But generally speaking, this is the gist of it. So once I've got all that made, I'm going to set down. I then am going to communicate to the up guys that are ready. There are a lot of ways to do that. Some houses where it's really tall and they can't hear you shake the rope, and that tells them. Other houses, particularly this one, you'll yell up to them something along the lines of, "Fish on!" And once they hear that, they're going to start going out. As it's going out, you want to just watch, make sure that everything's going up clean, that nothing's side-loaded, and you just want to keep an eye on your steel and make sure it doesn't snag anything it's not supposed to, and that all the kinks are coming out. And as it goes up, you look at your hook one last time as it passes. At this point in time, you're just standing here to make sure nobody walks under the riggers. And that is a 1-ton motor with a 5 basket and a 20 down tail. So moving on to the 2-ton that we've got marked in the floor. This one is going to be a 20 down tail with a 15 split basket. The important thing to remember on a 2-ton is that you want to use 1/2-inch steel instead of the 3/8 steel that we use for a 1-ton. So, the 20 down tail is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a piece of 20-foot steel, once again, marked in blue. And then the basket is going to be the fun part. So on a 15 split, you're going to have a 5 and a 10 both on the shackle. I'm going to show you once with the round shackle why we actually use a 3/4. So this one is going to be the 5/8 that we use for a 1-ton. But if you take it and you try to put the 10 and the 5 both on there, it's not going to work. There's not enough space for them to adequately be in that belt. So even though this shackle is rated for enough weight, it's just not physically large enough to do this. So, I'm going to set it up to the side, because I will use it later on in this process. using the 3/4 inch shackle, you're going to take it and you're going to put on the 10 first, and then the 5. Once you've got those on, you're going to take your 20 and you're going to put it on the pin of the 3/4 inch shackle. Now this is kind of clumsy, so always make sure after you've made your connection to look at it and make sure that everything really is as it should be. So, the next step to this is actually taking that 5/8 shackle and you want to put it in the end of your 5-foot piece of steel. When you do this, you want to make sure that the bell is through the 5 and that your pin is the free-floating end. And the reason you do that is when this goes up, you're going to tie the rope into the 5, you're going to have the 10 slid in there, which I'll show you how to do that in a second. It's going to get up there. The first thing the up guy is going to do is he's going to pull out the burlap, he's going to pull out the 10, he's going to throw it around the beam, which is sometimes easier said than done. But he throws it all around the beam, and then he takes the shackle off of the 5, he opens it up, he slides the 10 down there, and he puts the 10 on the pin of that one. And that's what he's going to do in the air. That being said, down here on the ground, we want to leave that 10 free. We're going to leave that shackle free. And we're going to tie through the 5. So on this, you're going to go straight through the eye, not the shackle. Very important, don't go through the shackle or they'll send it back to you with a few choice words usually. But I'm going to tie about a 2-foot bowline on this. Well, we'll say 1.5-foot bowline on this. Once again, make sure you've got your 6-inch tail. So I've got this. I'm then going to take the 10. I'm going to slide it through here so we can make sure that the up guys can reach it when it gets up there. After that, I put in the burlap. And then once again, just like on the other side, you either shake it to let them know, or you yell something predetermined, such as, "Fish on!" So we've got the half-ton marks here, and we're going to go ahead and build this bridle, which, just refresh your memories, what we have here is we've got a bridle with a 10 down tail, also known as a steiner. One leg is going to be a 10-footer with 3 links and 10-foot basket, and the other leg is going to be a 15-foot with a 5 basket. When building, I like to start at the bottom and work my way up. So I've got my 10 down tail here. I know that the first 2 components on either leg are going to be 10s. So I'm going to go ahead and build my apex. Whenever you're building an apex, always make sure that both legs of the bridle are in the bell, and that your down tail is on the pin. So I'm going to go ahead and work towards the 3 links. So I've already got my 10. Bring it over here, and I'm going to grab my deck chain. With the deck chain, I try to always make sure that the side of the tag is my non-working end. It just helps keep the tag from getting torn up and extends the life of the deck chain because it has to have a tag in order to meet the standards. So I'm going to take a shackle and I'm going to put the bell end through the chain and put the 10 on the pin. The reason that we do this is we always want to have the pins going down whenever possible. Alright, so it's going to be 3 working links. So you count 1, 2, 3. You're going to grab this and you're going to twist it, or rather pull it up so that your dead parts fall down. You never want to capture the non-working links. You want them to be down there dangling out of the way. So it's going to be a tin basket. You build a tin basket the same way you would a 5, except you do it with a 10-foot piece of steel. So I'm going to start by opening up a shackle. Once I got the shackle open, I'm going to put the tin on it. And then I'm going to put a shackle on it. And then I'm going to pick up my deck chain with my 3 working links, which once again, remember, we're going to have all the excess down there where it doesn't get captured. And I am going to put my pin through there. And this part is a little on the clumsy side. So take your time, finesse it, if you will. And once you get it together, stop and look at it. See, looking at this, I've got my down tail, my rope will go here, I've got my tin, I've got my shackle. So this is built correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this to the rope. Once again, we always use bowlines. General rule of thumb is you want your bowline to be half the size of the basket. So for a 10-foot basket, I'm going to want a 5-foot bowline, which that's going to be about a 5-foot bowline. Once I get this all tied, I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out a little bit, just so I can look at it and make sure that it's all built correctly and it's all going to go up the way I want it to. The other thing I'm going to do is for my burlap on this, because it's a 10-footer, it has that massive bowline on it that everything can fall out of. I'm going to take my burlap and just pull it through the eye of the 10-footer. I'm going to set that off to the side. That side's done. So coming over to this side, it's going to end up being a 15 with a 5 basket. So I've already got my 10 attached. All I've got to do to make this a 15 is attach a 5 to it. Once again, I'm going to make sure my bell goes through the 5 and that the pin goes through the 10 so that my pin is going down. One thing to keep in note is that you always put your smaller hardware, such as the deck chain, or in this side a 5-footer, up as close to the basket as possible. That way, if there is a problem once it's in the air, it gives the up guys the option of being able to try and fix it. Because if your deck chain was all the way down at the apex, they could never fix that to change a link. But when it's right next to the basket, they can. But moving back over here to our 15, so I've got my 15 built. Now I need to build a 5 basket, which is going to be just like the 10 basket. You're going to take a shackle, you're going to open it up, you're going to put a 5 on it, you're going to put a shackle on it, and then you're going to put the leg from your bridle on the pin. Then when you tie it, make sure that you tie it so that it goes leg, pin, knot, 5, shackle. I'm going to do about a 2.5 foot on this. And then just to keep things consistent, I'll put my burlap through the eye. At this point in time, I'm going to look over my entire assembly and make sure it's all right. So I've got my 10 down tail to the apex. One side of the apex is a 15 with a 5 basket. The other side is a 10 with 3 working links and a 10 basket. At this point in time, I would yell upstairs to my riggers that the point is theirs. Generally speaking, they would take one side out till it's got tension. I'd stop them. They'd take the other side out till it has tension. I'd stop them, and then they would take it all out together. And that is how you build a bridle. So let's talk a little bit more about when you're sending a point out. So it's really important, as I told you, when you're building, that you tie your rope on in the right place. The correct configuration is going to go pin, rope, steel, shackle. And then, of course, you've got your down tail coming out of all of it. The reason this is important is because when it gets up there, your up guy is going to have everything held on the rope, and he's going to take this steel, he's going to wrap it all around the beam and attach it to the shackle. When he does this, you want to make sure that the rope is not going to get captured. If you were to build this wrong, and let me go ahead and jockey my configuration a little bit here. If, say, you were to tie on and it went pin, steel, rope, shackle, then when your up guy throws this around the beam and makes the shackle, it's going to capture your rope. You do not want to capture the rope. That just causes all kinds of problems for the up guy. So once again, it's really important that when you send this up, you do it in the proper configuration. So it goes pin, rope, steel, shackle. Another thing to keep in mind as it's going past you is look at and make sure that your steel and your shackle are free. Sometimes your shackle can get pinned by your down tail, which once again is a really bad situation for the up guy. So you want to make sure that your steel and your shackle are free and that you tie it pin, rope, steel, shackle. And of course, you've got your down tail going straight down. Another important thing to watch as your steel is going up is make sure that everything is nice and clear. And when I say clear, I mean you've got a piece of steel coming down, you've got a shackle with a bell going through the piece, and then the next piece is going to be sitting on the pin of that shackle. You want to make sure that it's not fouled. And when I say fouled, I mean something kind of like this. A lot of times, if you have steel, you make a whole bunch of it at once, it's all sitting on the ground waiting for you to send up, somebody kicks it, or just the way it gets picked up, it does this. If you see this happen, without grabbing it and making things harder on the up guys, see if you can just shake it and pop it like that. If it happens to get out of your reach, or you don't feel like you can safely do that, do not hesitate to yell to your uprigger, stop. They would much rather stop mid-pull than have to send it back down to you, or have you pull them off a beam when you try to correct it and you just can't reach it. So once again, you want to make sure that you've got your piece of steel, you've got the bell going through it, and you've got the next piece on the pin. And if it's fouled, or it's doing something kind of like that, you want to make sure you clear it before it goes up. So the last thing you want to be watching for as your steel goes up is your hook, and make sure that your hook is properly hooked in. A lot of times they can do things like get fouled like this, where you no longer have your eye supporting the hook at the top. So you've got something like this. When this goes up, this can actually take weight this way. It shouldn't, because when it does, eventually it's going to pop midair. If it does pop, it's going to shake your entire grid. It's going to make everybody in the building real nervous. It's very important that you make sure that it is going up correctly. So you've got, top of the hook and the bottom of the thimble. You don't want it to do something like this. You don't want it to do something like that. You want it to be like this. Another important thing to keep in mind is that with this style, it's not a bad idea to mouse it when it's going up. In order to mouse it, just take a piece of gaff tape through there, or just something that keeps that gate closed, because it's also possible to send it up like that. This is a very bad situation. You don't want to send it up because there's no guarantee that when it does finally pop one direction or the other, that's going to pop in. It could pop out. So you always want to make sure that your hook is in, that once again you've got the top of the hook into the bottom of the thimble. If you've got a gate like this, it's not a bad idea to mouse it. There are other styles of hooks that automatically lock, but this is not one of them. But this is what you should be looking for as your hook is passing on its way up. Please remember that DeLong Rigging Solutions one-shot training videos are meant as general overviews. Every system is different. Every venue has different procedures. All statements made make certain assumptions about systems and venue similarities. Nothing can replace on-site training with a qualified individual. If ever you have a question or concern about rigging, do not hesitate to reach out to us or another qualified vendor in your area.